Doing an Android test today, folks. We've got 4 machines here, and I've included the M2 MacBook Air because I've already done tests on it. You can go check that out just for reference. And also a few things have changed. New versions of Java, new versions of Android Studio, things like that. And also what we're building, I'll get to that in a second. So M2 MacBook Air, that one has 24 gigs of RAM, by the way. This might play a role when we're doing Android testing, especially when we're doing the emulator. This one is the M2 Pro MacBook Pro, the M1 Max MacBook Pro, and the M2 Max MacBook Pro. I've got the same version of Java on all these machines. We're using OpenJDK 19, and I also have the same version of Android Studio on these. So what are we working with? This project right here. You've seen me do this before on the channel, but they've moved it since. They now host it under Mozilla Mobile Firefox Android. I'll link to it down below in case you want to check it out too. I've also set this test up a little bit differently than usual. Instead of a clean slate and doing all my tests without anything else running on the machine, a lot of you have been requesting to do a more real-world scenario where I have things open. And that's how we use our machines when we're working, right? We have things open. Well, on all these machines, I've got 15 Chrome tabs. I've got 2 instances of Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna have Android Studio open, and I've got a couple of utility applications, Notes, Notion, and Todoist. This is kind of what I typically have open throughout the day, so that's what we're gonna go with. So I'll pop open Android Studio, and I wanna see how long it's gonna take first to open up a project. Let's start with the M2 MacBook Air, and go. I'm gonna stop the timer when it's done indexing, and that took 11 seconds. Actually, that's pretty good. I think these later versions of Android Studio are really getting much better at opening things quickly and letting you start coding right away without waiting for too long. Next is the M2 Pro MacBook Pro, and let's go. This one took 15 seconds. M1 Max, 12.46 seconds on this one, and the M2 Max. This is the monster that should beat everything else theoretically in all my tests, but it's not always the case. Oh, 9.13 seconds. Already it's doing good. Well, I should say, well, not good. English stuff, grammar. I'm learning. All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna pop open the terminal here. Here's the command right here. I'm just gonna copy that. Now, I am gonna add the time command so that we see how long the whole process takes. And that's what I'm gonna run right there for the first time on all these machines. And of course, we're gonna use our friend Schwarzenegger 2.0 to do the execution for us because it's got 4 fingers and you can press the buttons all at the same time. Yes, I know. I have the time command, but this is more fun. And off they go. Well, I might have to run this again because apparently some of these are downloading the new version of Gradle. So yeah, this happens. It's okay. I'm a professional laptop toucher. I'm gonna do this again. All right, so I've rebuilt this project. Unfortunately, the M2 MacBook Air gave up, and no matter what I tried, removing the cache, deleting Gradle, reinstalling everything, it's still failing the build. So that one's out. Now, as far as the times for the rest of these, the M2 Pro got 58 seconds, the M1 Max got 50.9, and the M2 Pro did that in only 41.5 seconds. Now I'm gonna build it one more time. During the build, I wanna check out to see what's going on with that memory. So let's pop open Activity Monitor here, and let's go over to the Memory tab. You can see that on the M2 Pro, we already have some memory pressure going on over there. 0 memory pressure on the M1 Max, and I'm expecting 0 to be on the M2 Pro as well. But let's have a look at the memory usage while I'm doing a build. Let's kick that off one more time. No Schwarzenegger this time. Let's just have a look here. We do see that there's a lot of memory being used already, and that's just everything that's running on the machine. Those Electron apps that I've mentioned earlier are really memory hungry. So if you're gonna be running a bunch of those, it's really going to affect your system performance if you only have 16 gigs like this machine has. Of course, there's no problems on these 2 big boys over here. They have 64 gigs of RAM each. And as you can see, we do have 38 being used over here on the M1 Max and 29 being used on the M2 Max. But we're in the green as far as memory pressure. There's nothing going on that's bad. No swap being used. Not that swap is bad, but you really don't want swap being used. Not if you can help it. Opening up an emulator is what I was going to do next. That emulator it's always a memory hog. We already have an issue over here on the M2 Pro, so it's not gonna really help opening up the emulator. We're gonna have even more problems with memory, and I'm about to show you that right now. How about you? Do you do mobile development with Android? You probably do if you're watching this video, or maybe you don't, but leave a comment down below. Let me know how much RAM you have on your machine right now, and are you running into memory issues? Let's go to Device Manager over here, and I've actually recreated the devices across all the machines. So I have Pixel 4 API 31. Let's see how long it takes to pop these open. I'm gonna start the emulator right now. 18 seconds until I see the background. That's on the M2 MacBook Air. All right, let's try the M2 Pro. Okay, 18 seconds on this one too. We're gonna get some better times here, right? Okay, 19 seconds on this one, the M1 Max. Wow, 27 seconds. Something is up over there. It's, I don't believe that. That's just crazy talk. Let's stop all these. I'm gonna start debugging the APK that was built, the ARM version, which is this one. All right, I'm debugging and I'm going to start this in the Pixel emulator. Let's go. So now it's gonna launch this app on the emulator and we'll see how long that takes. So we got 28 seconds on the M2 Pro. Have you ever tried this app, Firefox Focus? It's supposed to be distraction free to let you focus. All right, let's try it on this one. Go. So this one was 25 seconds on the M1 Max and one more to go. And I have a feeling this one's gonna be the fastest. 24 seconds. So fastest, but not by much. Now that we got the emulator running, let's have a look at the memory pressure. Ooh. Not looking so good for our little friend M2 Pro. It's not, I shouldn't say M2 Pro. It's the fact that this particular MacBook Pro has only 16 gigs of RAM. If the M1 Max came with 16 gigs of RAM, then that would probably be an issue as well. Am I seeing any slowdowns here in the usability of it? Not really. It's still very responsive, very usable. I can navigate around. I can go to the browser, go to different tabs in the browser, open up my apps, and everything seems to be okay. If I want to navigate the code, I can do that. Files are popping up, no problem, even though I am using 2.5 gigabytes of swap. So yeah, this is causing quite a bit of memory pressure, which is not the greatest, but it's not the end of the world. You can still use the machine. Now, if you were to pop open another emulator, or maybe you're doing cross-platform development and you want to pop open the iOS simulator, I'm gonna open up Xcode on all these as well. And I've got this app here called Movie Swift. So I'm gonna open up that project and I'm going to build and launch it on all three of these machines. There's our simulator. Open up iPhone 14. Now let's have a look at our memory usage. Are we in the red yet? No, not yet. We are using 4 gigs of swap now, and we're not in the red quite yet. Let's see. I mean, I don't doubt that these two machines are going to be able to handle all that and more and be completely usable, and everything will be fine. This one I'm a little worried about. Now, I want to do the build one more time and see how long that takes now that everything is open and everything is running, including the emulators. Because this is the kind of thing you'll be doing throughout the day. You are going to have your emulator open while you're doing incremental builds. So let's do that and let's go. All right. Any guesses what's gonna happen? Before, the times were pretty close. I mean, within 20 seconds, but put your guesses down below in the comments. Don't delete them, no cheating. I should also add that at no point did the temperatures go up beyond 80 degrees. We're at 54 over here on the M2 Max, 65 on the M1 Max, and 76 on the M2 Pro. And yeah, it is slower, but the temperatures are pretty low and the fans are off on all these machines, of course. Completely silent. This is not the kind of test where I saw any kind of huge jumps in temperatures. And slowdowns across the board. We've got 51 seconds on the M2 Max, 1 minute on the M1 Max, and 1 minute and 16 seconds on the M2 Pro. I wouldn't say that that's unacceptable. It's fine. It's okay. Good testing, huh? For the next test, I'm going to use a real clients app that my team and I have developed. And this is an app in the app stores right now. And this is actually using a cross-platform approach. So we're going to build for Android, but it also has a Node and Webpack step before it does the Android stuff. So there is a JavaScript aspect to it. And let's kick that off. Let's see how long that takes. The emulator popped up right away on these two machines, and soon after it popped up over here, and we do have a problem on that M2 MacBook Air. That poor thing is struggling today. It just gave up. It's between the M1 Max and the M2 Max at this point. We're down on a swap because I turned off Xcode and I turned off Simulator, but everything else is still running. This time I started up the emulator first. So we're all on the same emulator, Pixel 4. I'm going to time each one of these individually. Let's start with the M2 Pro machine and let's go. When the app actually launches, that's when I'll stop the timer. And yes, this is what I have to do every time I rebuild this app from a clean slate. I hope that maybe there's gonna be an improvement going from the M1 Max to the M2 Max. I don't know, we'll see. But also, I'm curious to see if the M2 Pro machine can handle and maybe do this just as fast or faster. Check out that memory pressure going up. Look at that, we're up to 6 gigabytes of swap being used. Wow, that is something. This is a good process to show because it demonstrates a cross-platform approach, and it has single core builds as well as multi-core builds. And I'm seeing swap used hit 7 gigabytes at this point, but we're still not in the red for memory pressure, which is okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. Okay, we've got 1 minute and 35 seconds. Let's go to the next machine. You'd think I know how long it takes on this one, but I don't. I usually start twiddling with my phone when I do the build. Let's go. And just taking a quick glance during the build at the memory being used, we're using quite a lot. 46 gigabytes being used. For all those folks that are wondering if they should get a machine that has more than 8 gigabytes of RAM, yeah, at this point you do, unless you're doing something like web development. And even then, some of the processes you're going to be doing are now pretty heavy. You really need to be doing just plain HTML development. Yeah. 1 minute, 36 seconds, not that much faster. Now let's see what this bad boy can do. What's going on with the memory here? Now, this one is using 39, so quite a lot as well. 0 swap being used on these big machines. Now, why are these two not extremely different? Well, this is a 10-core machine and this is a 12-core machine. So what this machine lacks in memory, it makes up in more cores in this particular situation. So that's also a benefit of this M2 Pro machine. And if you get more RAM in that, gonna be good. And just as I suspected, we get the fastest time on that M2 Max machine at 1 minute and 21 seconds. Now this is native script and it does have hot reloading. So I'm gonna change a little something in the JavaScript code and see how quickly it reacts. So let's do a console log launch event. Sure. Thanks, Copilot. That's exactly what it was. And before I hit save, I want to make sure all these are lined up so I have an idea of how long they take. Okay, I'm gonna hit save on these and see how long that takes. It's not gonna take very long, but I want to see if there's any kind of noticeable delay. Save on that one, refresh. Okay, that was pretty quick. A couple of seconds there, couple of seconds there. Obviously, I'm not timing this, but just to feel it out, I feel like the M2 Max did that a little bit faster, but overall, not a huge difference in the refresh process here. So folks that are not using native script, if you're using React Native or Flutter or Ionic, things like that are going to be pretty quick once you already have it running in the simulator. The biggest part, of course, is going to be that initial build. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed this. If there's anything else I missed, I may do a follow-up. And if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.